Good morning, Desert Sands Educational Foundation community. This is Sean Webb with the Educational Foundation. Here to talk a little bit about DSUSD mental health services. And with us today, we have some specialists in the district. We're going to share a little bit more about what we have available with Desert Sands and what we can offer our students. Good morning. How is everybody doing?
Good morning.
Very good. Good morning.
Is there a lag with my screen? I'm wondering if I need to kind of log off and then log back in.
There is. And you were kind of breaking up there in the beginning.
Okay, so I'm going to log off real quick. A little funny. Yes, we are live right now, so that kind of makes it interesting here. But as I was sharing, we're focusing on Desert Sands mental health services today, and I've got a team here from the district office as well as some site reps who are going to talk a little bit about what we have to offer. But first, why don't we have you guys introduce yourselves? Immediately to my right, I believe that's Michelle. Michelle, why don't you share about yourself? So introduce yourself to our community here.
Sure. So my name is Michelle Rowe. I am a Valley native. I graduated from Cathedral City High School, and I'm back in the Valley, my first year with the district, and I'm a school psychologist. I tell my students I'm kind of the brain mechanic. If a student is having a hard time learning, I'm the one that takes a close look. It might be a learning disability or they're not getting enough sleep. So okay. I'm the problem solver.
Okay, excellent. And we'll touch upon some more things that you're going to share about later here. Let's see. Ashley, why don't you introduce yourself to the Facebook community? Dr. Shantz.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Ashley Shantz, and I'm a counselor at La Quinta High School. I'm also a Valley native and have been at La Quinta High School for about 20 years.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining with us. Mm-hmm. And Eddie, why don't you share about yourself?
Sure. My full name is Heriberto Herrera. I'm a school psychologist. And just like my other colleagues, I'm also a Valley native. I lived here, graduated from La Quinta High School in 2003.
Okay.
Back here, this is my second year. I'm also stationed at La Quinta, so it's pretty surreal.
Okay, excellent. Geez, so we'll talk a little bit about that. Coming back to the school that you graduated from, definitely. Right. Sure, you got some hidden demons there to share, like Dr. Shantz has. And Patrice, why don't you share about yourself?
Hi, I'm the fourth Valley native on the panel. So exciting.
Oh,
I graduated from Indio High School. This is also my second year with the district, and I'm an educationally related mental health therapist. So I work with students in the special education program at their tier 3 level. So I offer individual therapy and group support.
Okay, and today is, as we shared, a focus on mental health services. And why don't you, Patrice, share a little bit about grief and how are those services available for Desert Sands and what we have?
Absolutely. So grief is a very natural process that we all experience at some point in our lives, and that we all may be experiencing right now. We're kind of in this very surreal, strange situation where we are all experiencing a little bit of loss in one way or another. And so there are some common things we think about when we are identifying grief. So things like feeling sad or wanting to withdraw or things like that. But there's also maybe things that we don't often think about that are related to grief. So things like having sudden outbursts or having bursts of emotion that we don't really know where they're coming from, wanting to isolate more, not being able to sleep or sleeping too much, not feeling hungry or feeling really hungry all the time, having things like emotional recession. So I noticed that I'm doing things in my emotions that I did when I was a kid. So I kind of like regress a little bit. It seems like I'm not quite my age. Feeling afraid about being alone. It can also look angry. So I feel more irritable or annoyed than I usually do. So it can kind of show itself in different ways for different people. Grief is a very personal experience. Mm-hmm. And so it can kind of ebb and flow. at different times in our lives, depending on the different things that are going on around us. So, and there are different kinds of grief. So sometimes we think about grief being attached to a really big loss, so like a death of a family member or some important person, but we can experience grief after any kind of loss. So things like loss of plans, so something you had maybe had your heart set on, like a graduation ceremony or a summer trip. Things like loss of a job, loss of your routine. I didn't know I'd miss going to school, but I really miss going to school. I really miss being in my classes or seeing my teachers. There can be things like collective grief. So something that we are all experiencing at the same time. So I think about grief that people experience after a big natural disaster. So some of the grief that was experienced after Katrina or after a big national tragedy, like 9/11. So something that we all experience kind of as a whole and kind of feel like a sense of numbness or sadness or unreality kind of related to that experience.
Okay. Excellent. You definitely touched upon a lot of things there, and we've got other panelists that are going to share about grief as well. Maybe Dr. Shantz, if you want to touch upon a little bit as well.
Sure. So I specifically just want to touch upon our seniors, who right now are senior students. Our students K through 12 are obviously struggling with this, but in particular, our seniors with a loss of, a lot of the monumental pieces of the end of their senior year. And so I just want to remind the families and the students that while we're not at the school site, your counselors are all here for you. All you have to do is reach out. All the high school counselors, all the middle school counselors, all the elementary, like the student can reach out, a parent can reach out. If you're concerned about a friend, reach out and let us know. And we are doing things from our homes to connect with families and make sure that everyone's supported properly. So I would just encourage you, if you have a concern about you, a friend, an acquaintance, anything, that you just kind of reach out and let us know.
Definitely. Yeah, there's so many avenues that I've learned in addition to just PSST world. A student could just email one of you guys, I'm sure, that you've worked with all year, or a parent can email you, as well as I believe there's even telehealth that was being launched by your guys' department this month too. So that's pretty fantastic. And to talk a little bit about depression, Michelle, you want to share a little bit about what's going on with the district in regards to that?
Sure. So a lot of it kind of mirrors what Patrice was talking about. And it's kind of hard to differentiate right now. Is my child depressed? Is my child grieving? I think the best thing, instead of trying to put labels on things, is to take a look at the whole picture. Is your child acting differently? Every child is different, and you know your child best. So are they sleeping more? Is this more than, during summer when we sleep in and we just don't want to get out of bed until, noon? Is it, what? Right. Find the little things. Is this, how are the people in the home acting as well? Everything's so upside down. And that's the best and the worst of it, is that it's impacting everyone, but we're all in it together. And so I like to mirror that point of reach out. Students who contact me and say they're depressed, first thing we do is say, hey, how are you sleeping? Do you have any routines? What's your goal for the day? You get to decide what your day looks like. You didn't used to be able to do that. We used to make you go to school. So now you get to decide, hey, I want to do more swimming in the afternoon. Right. What stopped you from doing that? Oh, it's because, I didn't even get up and brush my teeth and my whole day derailed. So I think it's just important to, instead of, panicking or saying, oh, my child's depressed, or putting labels on things, just see what are the little things that are within my control, within my child's control, that we know are good for us, making sure we're eating, making sure we're sleeping. And then if you're lost or you're like, this isn't it, there's more to it, everybody in the school community is available to help, or knows someone that can definitely get you in the right direction.
Definitely. Yeah. With all the different avenues we have nowadays, we're really available. I'll share that. And Eddie, why don't you share a little bit about what you have to discuss and so forth?
Sure. So mine tends to be the more darker and gloomy subject of it, and it's pretty much the suicide prevention and awareness. And just going off of what Michelle was saying is, 80% of any type of suicides have there was some sort of expression of it before it even happened. So it's something that needs to be talked about. And I know it's a really rough subject, but this is considered, youth suicide is considered the silent epidemic. It's something that needs to be brought up. And the things that I like to really talk about is mainly there's risk factors, but there's also some protective factors. So some of the risk factors is mainly, things such as substance abuse, feelings of isolation, ineffective coping mechanisms, inadequate problem solving skills. But what research has shown as one of the biggest protective factors, and I think this is very important now that we're in the COVID-19, is the biggest protective factor is having just one strong and caring adult figure. Yeah. And so looking at that and having that as a protective factor, it's revisiting how we communicate with our children, how we want to talk with them. The first thing and the one thing that I always talk with my parents is just showing up, being there in the present, talking to them. And maybe they might not want to talk to you, but it's okay. The most important thing is that you show up every day, at every moment. The next thing is, invest time into building relationships. So instead of asking questions that are very judgmental, it's asking them questions and just being empathetic and listening to them. So my recommendation is really the most protective factor is having that relationship with your children.
Most definitely. And it sounds like, by no means am I a specialist in this area, but it sounds like when I hear all of you guys talk, it's communication. Having those open lines of communication with your students, having the open lines of communication with your parents, your siblings, and whatever. It's all about communication. And then, Patrice, I'll say that I cut you off a little bit there. Is there anything else you'd like to add in regards to grief that you were sharing about?
As I listen to the other panelists, I think that's exactly right. We have this common thread of, if we're showing care to each other, especially that parent or teacher or counselor is giving space for a student to say, this is how I'm feeling today, and not have a judgment about it. Just say, I get it. I understand why you would feel that way. Tell me more. Or here's some other ways you can express that: journaling, drawing, talking to somebody, being connected. Those are the healthy factors that are going to give a voice to, whether it be grief or depression, whatever that space is, to have it out.
Right. And a lot of time you talk about space, and students right now don't have the same amount of space that they normally would, right? Like here I am, I'm working in a guest room, and I'm very fortunate that I have an extra guest room to work in and so forth. But I know that we have some students that don't have the space where they have to share a bedroom, or they have to share a bedroom with 2 and 3 siblings. So reaching out and communication is key. One question, maybe any of you guys can kind of answer this. How would a student get a hold of one of you right now if they needed to?
Well, I can
go ahead, Ashley.
For school site. There's a couple different ways. One is reaching out directly through email. And counselors are making phone calls, not just communicating through email when needed. But the other thing is, on the district website, there is a request for assistance, and it's open to the public, so anybody can fill them out. I think we recently got one from someone's next door neighbor that was concerned about a student. And so when that's filled out, the information goes directly to the site counselors so that we can kind of assess what's going on. And then in some cases, we'll reach out to our mental health therapist to kind of support us when the situation calls for it as well. So the RFA on the district website, and then the direct contact to email is working.
And then at the same time too, if I can add, we do have an amazing DSUSD social emotional website, which has a list of all the information. It has a list of resources as well. And then if you look at the contact us, it has a list of all the schools, and then it has a list of all the counselors, all the school psychologists, and their contact information. It's a wonderful website that I would just recommend parents just to go check. All the resources are there.
Yeah. So when we had our first conversation with Sue Ann and Laura Fisher, we walked through the website and we shared a little bit more about that. And I'll definitely make sure to comment about that and have a link here for everybody to see.
Yes.
Definitely. Now, Eddie, I know you said you're at La Quinta and you're housed at La Quinta. Let's see here. Michelle, where are you housed at? Which site? What school site?
I'm primarily at La Quinta Middle School, but I also serve with students at Amistad High School, as well as Summit High School and Horizon Independent Study.
So you are all over the desert.
I bounce around a little bit.
You go from the Cove to North Indio, back and forth. Oh my gosh. How does something like that work? Are you there, Monday, Wednesday, Friday at one place, or is it half the day? What is your schedule like?
So in the beginning of the year, I usually have my days planned out perfectly.
Of course.
It's 3 days at the middle school, and then I jump around, but then it becomes an as-needed basis. And so
Okay.
I'm pretty much school psychologist on demand.
Okay, I got you. Yeah, definitely. And Patrice, yourself, where are you housed at?
I, much like Michelle, have several sites. So I'm typically housed at Summit. I service Summit and Horizon, as well as Palm Desert Charter Middle and Cardinal Mitchell Page Middle.
Okay. You're a little bit more of the West, but poor Michelle, you have to travel all over the place. Hopefully you get some airline miles there or something there.
Get the mileage.
Yeah. And then Eddie, with yourself being at the high school, how many years have you been there?
This is my second year.
Second year?
I've been a school psychologist for 6 years. Before Desert Sands, I used to be up in Northern California.
Okay. And I'm guessing that since you're at the same site and being the second year, you're really making those relationships. So it's probably making it easier for the kids to open up and speak with you. Yes.
I've built quite a caseload. I love my students there. And one of the things that we get a reputation in terms of school psychologists is that we only focus on special education students, and that's not the type of personality that we want to display. We work with all students. So it's not just the special education students that come talk to me. It's, it's general education. It's any student that has difficulties. They'll come up and they'll talk to me. Yeah.
Mental health therapists, I'll tell you, is definitely key to have. I was in charge of discipline for 5 years at Page Middle School and 3 years at La Quinta. And if I would have had one of you guys on hand to work with a student, I'm guessing, the suspension days school-wide would have come down tremendously. The amount of school-wide discipline would have come down tremendously. Definitely. Yeah. And let's see here. You guys are all desert natives. I love that. What inspired? Maybe one of you guys can raise a hand. And what inspired you to come back and work in the community where you grew up?
I'll jump in on this one. You grow up in the desert and it's so boring, and oh my gosh, and I couldn't wait to leave. And then I went to the Bay Area and I love my experience, but man, palm trees, mountains, and sunshine, it's like a siren song. And I honestly did want to come back and give back to my community and see the desert with fresh eyes. And it's such a lovely, magical place. I love it here.
Yeah, definitely.
And if I can add, when I graduated, I was like, that's it. It's too hot here. I'm done. I'm never coming back. And so I left for quite a long time in Northern California where it was cold. I went to Humboldt State University, where it was just always cold. And then Redding, where it has a good combination. But then, I have a wife, and then we have a two-year-old daughter. But now we're missing the family. All of my family's down here, and this is pretty much where I was raised. So we decided to come down here.
Okay. I gotcha. Excellent. We're coming up around 20 minutes and so forth. I want to give you guys an opportunity to speak not only to the DSUSD community, but maybe just share a message with some coworkers you haven't seen in a while, or maybe some of the students you haven't actually made a connection with in seeing them, but you've only talked to them over the phone. Maybe we could start off with Patrice, where we started at the beginning. Is there any message you'd like to say to the Desert Sands community that's watching?
You guys are a wonderful community. I miss you tremendously. I cannot wait to see all of you again as soon as we can. Please reach out. I'm here. I am still working my regular hours. If you need to reach me, please reach out. And if I haven't worked with you before, please reach out to someone if you need that support. We are here. We care about you. We want to link you to support and give you what you need. We're so close to the end of the year. It would be great to finish this off by hearing from all of you. So take care of yourselves.
Excellent. Thank you. And Eddie, is there a message you'd like to say to the community?
Just piggybacking on what Patrice is saying, we're here. We miss you all. I miss you all. All my students, I miss you and missing our time talking to each other. To all of the colleagues, to the Black Hawk family, I miss speaking with all of you guys. To the psychology department, I miss hanging out with all of you guys.
Excellent. Thank you. And Ashley?
So I can echo, we're here, but I think the other part is I've been really impressed and really proud of the way that the school community, my site has kind of pulled together and stepped up to meet the needs of our students the best we can. The kids that are showing up to class, the kids that are reaching out, that are still moving forward, and the community that has really rallied around our students and our staff. It is a good place to live. It's probably part of the reason I came back after going away for college. this is kind of part of why I wanted to return. So I just want to throw that out there. And then also, I miss being at work. I miss being students. I miss having meetings that are face to face with parents and not having to do it over the phone and those kinds of things. And so I'm looking forward to when that happens. I'll be very grateful to be back.
Yes, same here. Same here, definitely. I miss people tremendously, so much that I had to get an account with StreamYard to make sure I get to see people and do these types of things. Director of community engagement. It's tough to engage community when you can't actually go out. And Michelle, is there a message you'd like to say to the community?
I mean, I miss everything about my job, but I'm also really enjoying the opportunity to just see different aspects of just how important our school system is, and all these little things that I just took for granted, having that routine every day. So I guess my message would be, we're all in this together, and you can't stop the waves, but you can learn how to surf. So I encourage everybody to learn how to surf and help someone else learn how to surf, and we'll get through it. And next year is going to be super, super great. I'm excited.
I love it. I agree with that completely. One thing I'll share with you guys, maybe you didn't see the announcements, but this morning at 8 o'clock and as well as at 1 o'clock today, I've been having the high school principals on with me where we're sharing about graduations. They're going a little bit more than virtual. They're going to have a drive-through graduation. And this morning, Mr. Lawson shared as many details as he could share right now, because he still has to run those things through the city as well as the district and police. And, it's a community effort when you have a graduation. It's going to look a lot different, but they're going to have something, in a drive-up nature. And at 1 o'clock today, we have Amistad, La Quinta High School, and some other schools that are going to join us to talk about their graduations and to continue on, with our Facebook Live and our YouTube Live. For you don't know, we have a show on Tuesdays and Thursdays traditionally called Morning Coffee with Chef Mary. Chef Mary's a retired chef who lives up in Big Bear, who we've been bringing on community partners that we highlight that have worked with Desert Sands, not just with La Quinta High School, but with all the Desert Sands. And then to celebrate the class of 2020, I want to plug this. We have a virtual concert called Rockin' Farewell to the class of 2020. Nice. And what we've done is we've recruited garage bands of the high schools who are going to, they've shared YouTube videos with me. And we're going to bring on some of the seniors. I don't know if you're on Facebook or not, but the Adopt a Coachella Valley graduate class of 2020 page is 8,000 strong in the Coachella Valley. And there was well over 1,000 seniors that were adopted. And we're going to bring on a couple handfuls, a couple panels worth, where they're going to talk and share about their plans. And in between the panels, we're going to play the garage band music. So that's going to take place on Friday night. So a lot of the great things going on in the community, a lot of great things going on with Desert Sands. Thank you all for doing what you do for mental health services in Desert Sands and everything that you do for the community.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Glad to be here.
You got it. All right, guys. Well, you have a good one. I'll definitely share the links with you, and you guys have a great day.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so